A premiação, tomem seus lugares. A gente decidiu fazer aqui do sofá porque fica mais íntimo. Já estava íntimo quando a gente chegou.
Welcome, everyone. Take your seats. We decided to have it on the couch, on this couch because it's going to be a little bit closer. My name is Fabio Staibo. I am the Executive Director of ITS Rio. The role of ITS was to help understand what was happening with artificial intelligence. And what I can talk about the process is it was a big lesson learned. We had almost 400 projects submitted, 395, but if we kept it open for 30 minutes more, it would be 400. From these almost 400, we read each one of them for a final list of about 30 projects. The judges gathered. They listed about 20 of them, and these 20 had a workshop to improve their proposals. They resubmitted the proposals, including a 5-minute video saying what they changed. All of the judges saw the videos, read the proposals, and then we got to the final list of the projects selected for the challenge. Many projects about artificial intelligence. The biggest challenge would be you either understand a lot about AI, but you don't understand a lot about climate, or they understood a lot about climate, but they thought AI could be something they could do as well. Those were left along the way. Those who got to this point could do a good mixture of both elements. Except for in implementation, there is a layer of lessons learned because there's still areas that are different or groups that are different. But when we look at the profile of the teams that submitted the projects and were selected, we see a big potential for this mixture between artificial intelligence and climate. I would like to invite two very important people so that we can do an official opening of our award. Juliana Bueno, Public Relations of Google Brazil, and Thais Ferraz from ICS.
Boa tarde a todas as pessoas
Good
presentes.
afternoon, everyone. It is a great joy for us from Google.org to be here today. It is an accomplishment of a dream that we dreamed together in the past, about 2 years ago, when I was welcomed at ICS by Thais, Alice Vieira, who is now in the presidency of COP30. She was there as well. The whole ICS team and we had an opportunity at Google.org, which was with such an important platform that is COP30 in Brazil. We wanted to, as Google.org, with the Brazilian leadership, help accelerate climate action, help think about solutions that would have a real impact in Brazil. Also thinking about the necessary urgency that we need for these solutions to become a reality. In the first semester of last year, about a year and a half ago, we started this conversation, and this conversation was materialized in this challenge. For us, this still is the biggest investment in the history of Google.org in Latin America and the topic of climate. This investment that we consider with ICS and all these partners is very important for us, both for the history of Google, how we want to positively impact solutions that are created in Brazil through the use of technology and especially artificial intelligence. But we had expectations for this challenge, but we did not know what it would be exactly. We had the expectations of mapping the ecosystem or being surprised maybe by the type of proposals that we would get. Try to understand the state of the art of the ecosystem in Brazil, how the solutions are, who is using artificial intelligence, how they're thinking. And I believe you imagined that a year ago what was considered the state of the art of artificial intelligence in Brazil changed a lot when we consider today. You are directly involved in these projects and these actions and the mitigation and adaptation focused actions for the acceleration of the climate action. And you know that it is not something trivial to think about technology from a positive and optimistic standpoint. For us from Google.org, AI is not a magic wand or a magic potion that is going to magically solve all our problems, but it has a few components which are present in some of your projects, a capacity of data analysis and insights that is very important for us to especially inform public policies, a capacity to think about systems and solve problems that the human mind would take decades, if not centuries, to solve. Recently, we had a Nobel Chemistry Prize and a Nobel Physics Prize because the Google AI could map all of the proteins in the human body, something that will last about 200,000 years of research by PhDs. In science, in the world, we had a few of those proteins mapped, but not all proteins in the human body. And that means that today the way to find medical solutions for the problems must accelerate in the next 5 years with cure for the diseases that we still haven't had a cure. I am optimistic also in relation to the climate issues, and I think that artificial intelligence is going to be a helper in accelerating climate action. And it's great that it can help us with the urgency of the climate action. I think the proposals that we received and the winning proposals that we meet soon, they only strengthen my optimism. Today is a very happy day. I saw here many partners that followed our journey. I'm not going to name names, so I don't leave anyone out, but I have to thank you all on behalf of ICS. I would like to thank Thais. I would like to especially mention Camila, who was brilliant and patient and dedicated in her daily activities, not only helping us technically, but emotionally in other parts of this challenge. Fabro from ITS was a great partner as well. He brought all of the know-how of ITS to this competition. Pedro Ivo from the presidency of the COP was also a state-of-the-art partner in understanding the council and analyzing the proposals. It is a huge pride and a huge celebration for Google. I want to see all of the proposals, and I hope everybody is as optimistic and excited as we are. Thank you very much, Ju. Thank you, Fabro. Thank you, everyone, for the presence. I don't think we could start any differently because the feeling of this competition is happiness. I remember when we started this conversation talking about what this partnership and this competition could be, and we were very afraid that we wouldn't receive so many proposals. And I believe most of you know here, ICS is an organization that is 10 years old. We work with the climate agenda with over 200 partners, and we did not have a lot of projects with this profile in our portfolio. So many climate organizations are partners of ICS, but organizations that work with technology and artificial intelligence were very few. And we had this impression that that was developing more quickly in the private sector. And we had a great focus here in supporting non-for-profit organizations in this competition. So we launched the bidding notice. We called for proposals. We disclosed it. And for our surprise, we received 395 proposals in 3 areas. We are working with monitoring, restoration and bioeconomy monitoring, regenerative agriculture, and biodiversity. These are the great areas that we worked with. And reading the proposals, it was very nice to have a specialized jury. We had a great combination between experts of the technical agendas and experts in technology that helped us a lot choosing the interesting proposals and seeing if the technology was viable for that purpose. For me, what was clearer was the huge potential that these proposals have, and it shows that it is only the beginning. Artificial intelligence and technologies can revolutionize drastically the agenda of monitoring biodiversity, and something that draws my attention, which is the fact that it enables social inclusion. So we had a few projects that with technology will enable, for example, territorial mapping in indigenous territories.
And this is unique, mapping indigenous land. And we are going to put them first, but the technology could be used for many other agendas with the regularization of land tenure and enabling technical assistance to get to places that without technology it wouldn't reach. So it's a new avenue, and this is only the beginning. I'm very happy, I'm very excited with the next steps about this subject. And again, I think that artificial intelligence technology came to stay. So how could we harness that to be able to accelerate the climate action in the same speed at artificial intelligence development? Because we need that a lot.
Bom, agora em sequência.
Well, now,
Obrigado. Agora em sequência a
thank
gente
you.
vai fazer painel
Now
rápido
we are going
e
to
vai
have
contar com
this
alguns
quick panel,
jurados.
and we are going to
O que eu
count with
posso
some of the
dizer como um dos
jurors.
jurados é que,
As one
tal
of the
como desafio,
jurors,
ou
I
você vem
could
de
say
tecnologia e enxerga clima, ou
that you
vice-versa, a gente
are
enxergava na
coming from
tecnologia.
technology
E
or
foi
climate,
muito interessante o
and
diálogo ao
it was
longo do
very
painel com quem
interesting to have this
pensava
dialogue
clima. Então as conversas
with
elas
those who were
começavam,
thinking about
né? Esse
climate.
projeto nem pensar, esse projeto,
So
por favor. Aí em diante
uh,
e daqui a pouco
we
você que não
started
queria aquele, você quer
saying
muito e o outro, e
that
assim a
we
gente ia
wanted
vendo as diferentes
that project
perspectivas
and not
até
the
chegar
other, and then
no
we
modelo
inverted the
que a gente tem.
perspectives until we could
Então,
find
para
a
compor aqui
common ground.
no sofá o
So to
ecossistema,
come
o painel
to the
Ecossistema Brasileiro
sofa,
de Inovação
we have
IA
this
para a
panel,
Natureza e Clima,
Brazilian Innovation
eu chamo
Ecosystem for
a pessoa que sempre
AI
desafia a gente a
for
fazer mais
Nature
pela
and
costa,
Climate.
Pedro Ivo,
So I'm
coordenador
going
das
to
fundos
call
científicas e
Pedro
tecnológicas
Ivo,
do
the
Departamento de
coordinator of
Minas,
the
do
Action
MRE.
Agendas Activation Group 27 from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Annalisa Munarini, diretora do Departamento de
Annalisa
Desenvolvimento
Munarini,
Territorial e
Director
Socioambiental do
of
Projeto
the
Alimento Agrário e
Socio-Environmental
Agricultura Familiar.
Department of the Ministry of Family Agriculture and Agrarian Development.
Ana Euler, diretora executiva
Anna
de
Euler,
Inovação, Negócios e
Executive
Transferência de
Director
Tecnologia,
of
Embrapa.
Business and Technology Transfer at Embrapa.
Luiz Fernando Laranja,
Luiz
fundador e
Fernando
CEO do
Laranja,
grupo
the
Capital.
founder and CEO of the Capital Group.
E, para concluir, Ana de Souza
And
Aranha, CEO
Ana
da
de
Quintessa.
Souza Aranha, CEO from Quintessa.
Esse é um painel que tem
This is a
duas
panel
perguntas
with
centrais para
two
cada um, e
core
depois, se a gente tiver
questions
tempo, a
for
gente
each
abre
one of you,
para
and
perguntas
then
de vocês.
if we have
Então a
time,
gente pode
we are
começar
going to have a
pela pergunta
Q&A
em comum,
session.
para
Maybe we
encontrar o
could
ponto
have
de
this
vista de
common
vocês.
question to understand your perspective.
A presidência da COP30 provocou a
The
reflexão.
presidency
O
of
que deveria
COP30
ser o
asked us,
legado,
what should
em
be
tecnologia
the
da
legacy
COP30?
of
Se fosse
technology
escrever,
at
escrever o quê?
COP30?
Se fosse fazer,
If
fazer o
you were
quê?
going to
Se
write
fosse um
it, what would
follow-up,
you write?
fazer o quê?
If it's a
Então,
follow-up,
acho que
what
eu
should we
perguntaria para
do?
vocês, se você
So I
pudesse
would
fazer
ask
qualquer
you, if you
coisa,
could do
estalou
anything,
os dedos e magicamente
snapping your
aparece,
finger
o que
and
que você
magically
acha que
you have it
seria o
happen,
legado da
what
COP30
do you
que
think
envolvesse essa
could be a
fronteira
legacy
tecnologia e
of
sociedade?
COP30 that would
Vou
engage
começar, César.
this technology and society?
Bom, obrigado. Queria
Thank
agradecer
you.
aqui
I'd
Google e
like
X
to thank
pelo
Google
convite
and X for the
e
invitation,
parabenizá-los aí
and
pela
I'd like to
iniciativa.
congratulate you for this
Bom, parece que eu que
initiative.
provoquei, né? Então acho que eu devo
Uh,
mais
I
escutar do
brought
que
that
efetivamente
question, I believe, so I
comentar.
should
Vejamos para qual
listen
vai
more than
deixar de legado.
commenting. So
Mas
let's
eu
see
queria
what
só,
COP is going to leave as a
talvez, ressaltar
legacy.
alguns
But
aspectos
I'd like to
dessa
highlight
iniciativa
some
que
aspects of
se
this
alinham muito
initiative
bem com o
that
que a gente
are in
está
line with
pensando,
what
né,
we're
desdobrou para a COP30.
uh,
Eu acho que vai
envisioning for
talvez dar o
COP30,
contexto aqui para
and can
demais colegas
give
aqui
you the
do painel.
context so that we
Eu
could
acho
help the
que,
others in this
enfim, a
panel.
gente tem falado muito
We've
que
been
essa
talking
COP é uma
about
implementação, né?
the implementation
A gente está
COP,
falando até a exausção, isso,
and
e
and
mas
this is a point we've
efetivamente,
been
para quem
highlighting a
vem
lot. And
acompanhando o regime
effectively, if
há muito
you're
tempo, né, a gente está um
monitoring
pouco
this
saturado
regime,
sobre a questão de
we
negociação
are
de
a little bit
preço e
fed
de
up with negotiations and tax
decisões,
celebrations
porque
and
realmente eu acho que o momento da
different decisions.
urgência é
So
justamente o momento em
this
que a
is
gente
an
precisa
urgent
ver
time. We
soluções
must
práticas,
bring
soluções que deram
practical
certo e
solutions, solutions
soluções
that
que
worked,
a
and
gente quer ver
solutions that we
escalar.
want to see
E esse é
scaling
justamente o
up.
espírito, eu
So
acho,
this is the spirit
dessa
of
iniciativa aqui.
this initiative here,
A gente trazer casos concretos
bringing
no
concrete
âmbito do Brasil,
cases
né?
at Brazil
Mostrá-los, dar
and
visibilidade para
Brazil,
esses casos
giving
e
visibility
dar os
for
meios
these
para que eles
cases
possam
and
ser,
providing
enfim,
the means for them
difundidos,
to be
melhorados e,
disseminated,
eventualmente,
improved,
também
and
incorporados em
eventually
outros desafios,
incorporated
né,
in
que
other
tenham,
geographies
enfim, expectativas e tenham
that
demandas
could have
semelhantes. Então, um
similar
pouco é esse
demands.
espírito que
So
a gente
this is
está
the
querendo
spirit that
vir
we
para a
want to
COP30,
see
né?
for
Depois eu
COP30.
posso elencar aqui o que a
I
gente,
could
como
list
presidência, está fazendo,
what we are
nos
doing as
três alavancas, digamos
presidency
assim,
with
da
the
IA, né? Que
three
são de
levers of AI,
capacitação, a questão
capacity
de
building,
infraestrutura
infrastructure,
e a questão de dados, né?
and data,
Três alavancas, então a gente quer
the
trazer
three
muitas
levers.
soluções
So we
concretas
want to bring
para
concrete
mostrar na
solutions to
COP30
show
e,
at
digamos assim, ter o
COP30
debate em torno delas,
so
porque,
that we
claro,
can
a gente
debate
pensa nos seus
around them.
benefícios, também
Because,
tem
of
que
course, we're
pensar nos
talking
seus
about the
riscos
benefits,
também, né?
but we should think
Então, esse é
about
um
the
debate
risks
aberto
as
que a gente
well.
quer ter lá
So this is
também
an open
e,
debate we
enfim,
would
eu
like
acho
to
que
have. And
vocês duas aqui, né, representando
the
as duas
two of
instituições,
you representing the
trouxeram
two
muito
institutions
essa questão para
brought
essa iniciativa e estão de parabéns.
this matter to the initiative, and I should congratulate you.
Então, boa tarde
So, good afternoon
a todos os presentes. Quero
to everyone
cumprimentar o
here.
Google
I'd like to,
pela
co-
promoção
to
desse
greet
momento aqui de
Google and
diálogo.
X for promoting
Nós,
this
enquanto
moment of
MDA,
dialogue.
nós temos
As the
trabalhado,
Ministry
né, com a
for
agricultura familiar,
Agrarian
que é o nosso
Development, we've been
público
working with
de
the family
ação direta, né,
farmers.
sobre
This is our
os
target
impactos
audience.
climáticos,
We've been
porque o
working with
agricultor
them
familiar ele
with the
ao mesmo
climate
tempo que ele é
impact
impactado, ele
because
também pode
they
ser
suffer the impact, but they could
responsável pela
also be
restauração.
responsible for restoration.
Então, nesse
So,
processo
in this
de
process
retomada do debate ambiental, mais
that we are
diretamente com os povos do
resuming
campo e da
the
floresta nesses últimos
climate
anos,
debate
né,
with
a
the
gente não
people
pode
from
deixar aqui
on the
de
field and
falar,
the people
né,
from
que
the
o
forests,
Brasil
we must
vai
mention
sediar
that
essa
Brazil
COP,
is going to
mas que
host this
vinha num
COP,
processo de
but
retrocesso
we
na
had
matéria
this
ambiental
process of
e agora a gente
setback
retoma
concerning climate, and
esse
now
debate com
we are
políticas
back to this
públicas, né,
debate with public
reconstruindo,
policies,
inclusive mudando a
rebuilding
cultura,
and
né,
changing the
que a gente
culture
consegue olhar hoje
so
a
that we are
agricultura
able
familiar
to
num
observe
processo de reconcentração de
the
terras
family
também,
farm in this process of land concentration on the field. I believe that artificial intelligence is contributing for the youth to be part of the debate, but for that, we must have different conditions. We must have access to connection. We should have this soil study to understand how we could produce in a less aggressive way without using fire to change the culture. So it's a cultural shift, but we shouldn't remove people from the field. We must think about climate with people. So as as government, we should think on how to include family agriculture in this debate, because the family farmers are producing, and we must think about technical assistance about research, because the great producer many times has uh, the conditions, but the small farmer needs to have access to the knowledge and tools to execute in the proper way. So they don't have to face the option of selling the land or deforesting the land. So we have many programs. We have this program on productive forests. We are trying to produce food from the forest, and we have the national program on social biodiversities called Social Bio, which is an encouragement for the social bio chain. And artificial intelligence is key in this dialogue in terms of monitoring, but also showing where we could improve public policies, especially with these two programs. And we're working hard to build that. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's so good to be here talking about this subject. I shouldn't be here, but my president should be here. Embrapa is 52 years old, and we turned 50 in 2023. That's when Lula and Minister Fabro invited Silvia Massurrat, the first woman to be the president of Embrapa. She is the former chief of digital agriculture, and she was betting on artificial intelligence and information technology. So when people say AI is the future, she says this is the present. It was the future 35 years ago when the first professionals at the field were hired, and we created this department at Embrapa. In the past, it wasn't digital agriculture, it was um, information technology, but now we are digital uh, farming for sustainability. And I want to talk about legacy. Of course, this board wants to leave for Embrapa a legacy, and the pillars in our agenda are moved by sustainability with the three fields: economic, social, and environmental. And we should have inclusion, and I agree with what you said in the opening remarks. And we have scientific proof. We have social productive inclusion, and we have the social inclusion and the digital inclusion, because in practice, our agro-technological districts and our tools for digital inclusion have been proving that we have a direct positive consequence with the social inclusion and social productive inclusion. In the forefront of biotechnology, that includes artificial intelligence. So what's the legacy for COP? We have many partners working with us, and we're preparing this great sustainable house for the agriculture in Brazil. We call it AgriZone. In this space in Belém, with 400 hectares, where we have forest, in the integration of cattle raising, agriculture, and forest, we're having showcases connecting the living showcases with technology. We have this pavilion, and we are going to show the interaction of different technologies, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and so on. So at the Embrapa website, you're going to see 200 different technologies that we are going to put there. And beyond that, what would we like to leave as a legacy? Today, we have two platforms. One is called eCampo for online courses. 70% of them are for free. And this platform uh, went to 99% of municipalities in Brazil and 20 Portuguese-speaking countries. We have another platform built with ICA, MBA, MAPA, and BID, and the development, the International Bank, and everything that we want to know about this chain and this topic using artificial intelligence, but we wanted to use more because this artificial intelligence is to translate the scientific knowledge in 500 questions and answers, the most common ones, to help the farmer to seek this knowledge. But we want to migrate to interact, especially for our farmers with this verbal interaction. And that helps a lot. We have several apps doing that, including one that we are developing, and we have the beta version in partnership with MDA. It's called Raimundo for family farmers, and we have this different work that are the agro-technological districts. So beyond taking knowledge through platform, we have solutions on connectivity, network, so that all this knowledge could help the small producer in their decision making and their access to credit, their access to public policies. So that started in São Paulo, funded by FAPESP, and we are in different regions in Brazil now, funded by FAPESP and other supporters. And now we are taking to other countries in Latin America with ICA. So what's the legacy for COP? We have this partnership with MDA. We want all of the platforms to subsidize this government program that we call More Digital Land, empowering tools for the technicians that are only catering to 10% of the family audience. We have 20,000 technicians for millions of rural land. So this extension agent should have this new profile and cater this new profile of farmers that are connected and will find it easier to find this information. I'm a forest engineer and I have an agronomist by my side, and we say that not all knowledge could be taken to the field without technical guidance. And all the platforms say, this is the knowledge, but please use a technician to support you. And the idea of the Minister Paulo Teixeira is that we could launch that at COP, inviting presidents from Portuguese-speaking countries so that this platform is not only for Brazil, but it's a South-South cooperation as well. I could talk about other ideas and other proposals, another important topic, but I'm going to speak about that in the next question. It's a challenge to speak after such an excited and qualified person. Well, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank X and Google for the invitation. It was a privilege to participate at of this board that was evaluating the projects. As Fabio said, it was a great challenge and learning. It was an extraordinary experience. When I was invited, I was scared because I'm not an expert in AI. I'm a redneck who likes innovation because the first part of my career was in academia, was a professor at the University of São Paulo, but it was 30 years ago. But now I raise cattle, and I was scared with the invitation, but it was an extraordinary experience because we have qualified people like Fabio to guide us on the topic of technology. But to answer the first question about the legacy and relating that to COP, I wanted to bring that to our agenda on innovation. And I understand that we should be honest here. So I've been participating of COPs since Copenhagen in 2015. And I confess that I'm a little bit frustrated with that because the advances were not the ones we expected. And we wasted time to face the climate crisis, and the emergency level is raising. So, my vision is not an optimistic vision concerning the future, since we are not doing our homework to face the climate change. And as time goes by, we have a smaller window and the solution is getting more complex. So even with this pessimistic vision, I still have two perspectives for solution. One is at the metaphysical level, but that's not what we are doing here because this is a different forum to discuss. So I have this strong faith and I pray a lot, but this is not the forum. So excluding this metaphysical solution, I believe that the solution for facing climate change at this point will come from something we are not aware of because we've wasted the time we had to face it. So now I would say it's almost a miracle. But for those believing in science, maybe the miracle is innovation. And what we've been doing, what we've been seeing in this modest sample of this grant promoted by X and Google was a relief. It was uh, a breeze of fresh air. I didn't expect that. So, in this perspective of innovation or metaphysics, we should bet on innovation and pray a lot at home.
So maybe that is a topic that needs to be reinforced at COP, because now it's not only a matter of option. We now either invent something different that we don't know what it is yet, or I think we're in trouble, just to say it very clearly. For me, innovation is the word of order.
Muito bom.
Very nice.
Vou repetir, porque é verdadeiro.
I
Parabéns
will
pela iniciativa.
repeat because it's true. Congratulations on the initiative, ICS and Google. It is extremely necessary to bring light and capital to this agenda. So congratulations for the initiative. I understand that we are playing with the magic wand, right? We are about to guess what is going to happen in the next few weeks. We have a few barriers when we talk about the climate, and I think I will focus on these barriers. One of them is we have a problem accessing data. There's a very few data available and they are not integrated. I'm not sure if you had an experience in Tibo, but I recently asked what is happening in the water basin plan of a specific state. I got to a drive folder and each folder had an Excel spreadsheet with insufficient data. So we'd had to go state by state to integrate the data. There's a huge data integration challenge. So certainly one of my comments would be to drive data integration. I'm not sure how much the public government can work on that or influence that, and also the tropicalization of the international data that we have. Many of the technologies were created based on the global north, and the biomes and the species are different here in the global south. So there should be an effort to use the developed technology, but adapt it in-house, not only on the biomes and species, but also in terms of languages. If it is not in Portuguese and there are linguistic barriers, we are creating also a segmentation for those who use the data. I think that there's this big layer when we talk about the data, and there's another outlook which is on capital flow. Today, the market is very prepared. We have a scalable revenues, so the market is already structured, but when it involves risks, long-term development, things that are more incipient and that naturally are more incipient because the agenda is new, it becomes a lot harder. So I think my second comment would be to approximate the capital to development agencies. We have several resources here in Brazil. So we should focus on attracting them to the agenda and show the importance of being connected to this agenda. So the integration among the different types of capital. And the third comment would be to look at the demand. We have a great gap in Brazil, which is between what is in the academia and what is used in the market. And as the market, we can talk about the private sector, the philanthropy, and the government as a client. So we have real cases that we follow that Quintessa up to geniuses, a couple of postdocs using a technology with AI and satellite data, and they had no idea on how to use that, to whom that will be useful. And one of the applications that we did was in a company to do water quality assessment. They reduced 3 times the time that they use for water quality assessment using the image data. So the more demand that we have in the sense of wanting the data and using this data and using that solution, the more the market will grow because there's someone that's going to pay for it. So this approximation between the academia and the market, the real world that's going to use this data is crucial. And to finish my comments, the fourth comment that I would mention is regulation, the legal security to work on this topic, including the actors and the capital, and also infrastructure, because we still have this challenge of digital inclusion and access to the internet, and I think it limits the scope when we talk about the size and the potential that this agenda could have. So I think this is a favorable moment. We may talk about the future, but we can get to some objective points that we could advance now.
Eu vou passar para o público para fazer
I'll pass the floor to the audience for questions right now. So you can prepare to ask questions and raise your hands. But I would like to say that if this is the legacy of COP, the COP is doing well. The vision and the idea, if it's going to work, we don't know. But at least I see a vision on where we can get to with this. I just want to comment on something that I think is already a legacy. On Friday, I was at BNDES, and BNDES launched the BNDES Forest. I heard a speech from Mercadante, from me, who is a forest engineer, that almost made me cry. He said the development bank has to minimize risks to induce a new transition agenda that is in fact ecological. BNDES, he said that the future agenda of the bank is going to go through 3 great pillars. I'm going to mention only one of them. and I was happy that he launched it. He
He
said Brazil has to invest in AI so we don't miss the train. But it's not any AI, because there's some areas where we're not going to be competitive. We're going to invest in AI focused on biodiversity, because no one has biodiversity like we do. No one has the databases that we do. And Embrapa itself is an example of that. When a president asks to all of the units, what do we have today that no one has? 52 years of data of agricultural research all over Brazil. This was never a product. And this is now one of the most valuable products in the planet. And I'm going to say to you now, very honestly, we still have a challenge, which is how to monetize this, how to capitalize this to streamline the sustainability of our company, which has been very challenged. Everybody says that research is important, but nobody funds research. The production sector that use this data a lot, to the extent that Brazil today has the agribusiness that it has, still gives us no return. My second question was about this, how to minimize the risks and induce funding with artificial intelligence and with the data that we have. We want to learn and develop these new business models, because we do have business models for research, but to use this research data so that it can feed through artificial intelligence the sectors of Brazil, this is something that we're still looking for. But I was really happy with this announcement by BNDES. I think this is already a legacy.
Assim, eu acho que as pessoas não entendem quão próximo é de você dominar a IA.
I don't think people understand how close we are to dominate AI. It seems like we need big data centers and big energy, but I just came back from Belém. I was next to the data center. They have one tower, and it's not even last generation. And only with that one tower, they do a lot in AI.
Tem a última geração, tem 7.
Oyas and Saya, they have 7 towers, and only with that they can do a lot. So I don't see why we cannot have an AI from Brazil. We cannot have an AI that runs here, that has the knowledge of Brazil, that use biofuels, that has the Brazilian energy matrix and solves Brazilian public policy problems, because the projects that I saw that included mangrove, they were our mangrove, they were our cerrado and our Atlantic rainforest. Any questions? I'd just like to make a comment while people think about a question. Based on what Anna said, I understand that it seems like a dream, but it's exactly what you said. It is contemplated in our context, because we have the team of Embrapa and Pantanal that are using DNA to map biodiversity with AI tools. So they're here. It is amazing. It is something incredible. It is incredible how fast it is. We did not imagine that this could be happening. And maybe things we did not imagine when the challenge was launched is now here, are now here. It's almost a metaphysical plan. It's almost plain. It's almost a miracle that is happening. So there's a lot of hope involved. Maybe the collapse is avoidable. We only have one question, and then we wrap up the panel. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations to everyone involved. I would like to congratulate Camila for the review of the proposals. I also participated in the review. We are talking about technological innovation and AI, which is in our life every day. Of course, it's going to be a future, but we still did not solve the problems from the past, like communication, how we can bring these technological innovations to the field. Usually technological innovations They go to the big farmers and those who can absorb this technology. So how could we, through AI, pass all of this technology forward to the small and medium-sized farmers or people who work with farming and livestock?
Então, esse programa que a gente está conversando agora com o
This
Ministério do
program that
Desenvolvimento
we're
Agrário
discussing now
é
with the
exatamente
Ministry of
para
Agricultural
responder essa
Development
questão. A gente tem muitos
answers your
países,
question.
como
We're
uma empresa
very
de pesquisa
clear
que
as
trabalha
a
do
research
pequeno ao
company
médio e
that
ao
works
grande, que
from the
hoje
small to the
tudo que a
medium
gente
to the
produz
large,
de disruptivo
everything that we
no nosso
produce in
setor
terms of
produtivo,
as disruptive
principalmente
today,
os
our production
5% lá,
sector,
que,
especially
digamos
the
assim, que estão no
5%
topo dessa
that
cadeia
are
do
at the
agronegócio,
top of this
rapidamente
agribusiness chain,
capitaliza e
quickly
implementa,
capture
né? Agora, como
and
fazer chegar no
capitalize
pequeno?
and
E aí a gente
implement, but
tem
how can we
testado
get this to the
essas
small
várias
farmers?
ferramentas.
So we have
E o
tested
ideal de
these
vida para uma
different
empresa de
tools.
pesquisa pública como a nossa é
The
poder
ideal
subsidiar
for a
políticas
public research
públicas,
company
porque aí
like
você
ours would be to
escalona,
subsidize
né?
public
Então, a
policies,
forma
because
como a
that
gente
will
tem
be a way
feito
to
isso
scale up.
hoje e
The
que
way
agora
that
a
we
gente
have
está
done this
interagindo para
today and
poder
that we're now
melhorar
interacting to
trabalhando principalmente na
improve and
governança
working
desse
on
sistema,
especially a
que traz
governance
aí
of the
a
system
ASBRAE,
that
que é a Associação
brings
Brasileira de
ESBRAER, the
Entidades de
Brazilian
Extensão
Association
Rural,
of
públicas,
Entities of
traz
Rural Extension,
cerca de mais de
Rural
177
Research, Extension
organizações
Research,
que
over
prestam, que são
67
cadastradas
organizations
como
that
de
are
assistência técnica não
registered
pública,
as
para a gente
technical
poder pensar a
assistants,
governança de
non-public
uma
technical
plataforma
assistants,
como
so that we
essa,
can think about a
que vai
governance of a
usar, que já está
platform of this
usando a
kind
inteligência
that is already
artificial
using
para poder
artificial intelligence
levar o
to
conhecimento para o
take
campo, para
knowledge
poder,
to
para
the
além disso,
field
né, fortalecer
to
redes
strengthen
territoriais de conhecimento, que não é só
territorial
você ter uma
networks of
plataforma,
knowledge, because
porque
it's
isso muita
not
gente,
enough to
apesar
have
de
just a
dela já chegar
platform.
a 99% dos
Despite
municípios brasileiros,
achieving
aqui com
99%
vocês, a
of the
maior parte do
Brazilian
nosso público ainda é
municipalities,
urbano,
most of our
periurbano,
public
né?
is
Porque eu botei
urban
até todos os
or
números que botaram na
peri-urban.
apresentação
I
em
have all of the
nível de
figures that
inclusão,
were
de
in the
exclusão
presentation, the
social, em
figures of
termos
social
de
inclusion or
vou até, né, eu
exclusion.
acho que esses números aqui que são
I'm
importantes,
going to
ó.
mention these
Com
figures here
base
because I
nisso que
think they are
olha lá, ó,
important.
acesso à internet no campo,
Access to internet in the
73%
country.
dos estabelecimentos estão conectados,
73% of the
só
establishments
35%
are
usam para
connected.
gestão
Only
da propriedade,
35% use it
60%
for
usam internet
property
móvel,
management. 70%
55%
use
têm
mobile
cobertura
internet.
de
65%
4G.
have 4G
3% das
coverage.
máquinas têm
3% of the
sensores,
machines
30%
have
dos produtores
sensors.
usam agricultura de
Sensors.
precisão,
30% of the
8% ainda
farmers use
utilizam
precision
drones, né?
agriculture.
A gestão
Only
digital.
8%
Hoje,
use
menos de
drones.
10% usam
Today,
plataforma
less than
digital, que é o
10%
que a gente está
use
fazendo, e a
digital
gente quer, através
platforms,
de uma
which is
política
what we're
pública,
doing, and
poder
through a public
expandir.
policy, we want
E
to expand
investimento,
it.
e 22% receberam treinamento em
22%
ferramentas digitais.
had training
Estudo
in
que até foi
digital
encomendado
tools.
pelo MDA e que foi
This study
apresentado
that
lá
was
no Dia da Agricultura
commissioned
Digital
by
é que
the
a
ministry,
TV, né,
the MDA,
nesse nova TV, na TV aberta, a TV digital, se ela abrir a
on
banda
digital
para
television
acesso à internet, ela tem
says that if
capacidade de
it
conectar
opens the bandwidth for
1,5
access to the
milhão de
internet, it
produtores
can
rurais.
connect
Então, a
1.5
conectividade
million
é um grande
rural
desafio
farmers. So
para se
connectivity
poder
is a
levar a
big challenge
conectividade
to take
com
to
qualidade.
be
Não adianta
taken
só você
with
ter
quality,
uma internet
because
que
it's not
ajuda nas
enough
relações
just to have
comerciais,
an
mas não
internet. It
te ajuda,
helps you with
por exemplo,
commercial
para fazer uma
relations, but it
capacitação,
does not
para
help
baixar um
you in
vídeo ou para fazer
training,
uma
with
operação. Então,
downloading a
para isso,
video
por
or
exemplo, a
doing
gente
an
está trabalhando
operation.
nesses
So
distritos
that's why we're
agrotecnológicos, que é
working
como
on
levar
these
de forma
agro-technological districts,
customizada,
how to
né, soluções de
customize
internet
internet
baratas,
solutions,
acessíveis
quick,
para
fast,
diferentes
and
regiões do
cheap
Brasil. Mas o que a
internet
gente está
solutions to
pensando
different
agora é
regions of
realmente
Brazil.
tornar
Because
esse
what we are
programa
thinking
até
about
mais
now
digital,
is
um
to
programa,
make
uma
this
política pública,
program
né,
more
que possa
digital, to make it
realmente
into a public policy
prover
that can
todas essas
um,
condições para que o pequeno
provide all of these
receba, tenha
conditions for
acesso
the small
às
farmers to have
tecnologias
access
que já
to
estão
the
disponíveis. E aí,
technologies that are
finalizando, porque
available.
acho que a gente não vai ter mais muito tempo de responder, eu
And
sou
to
um pouquinho mais
finish,
otimista.
I'm a
Eu
little
acho que
bit
não é
more
só muita
optimistic.
reza que a
I
gente
don't
precisa. Acho que a gente
think that we
precisa de
need
muita
only
reza,
to
mas
pray.
eu acho que
We
não
do
é
need
necessariamente um
prayers, but
milagre. Eu acho
I
que é uma
don't think it's
decisão mesmo
necessarily a
dos
miracle. I think
países
it
de
is a
assumirem
decision by
compromisso,
the
porque
countries to
muitas
make
soluções
those
existem.
commitments because many
Na
of these
agricultura, a
solutions
gente
already
diz isso,
exist.
muitas
In
soluções já
agriculture, we
estão aqui.
say
A gente
this.
precisa de
Many solutions are
governança, a gente precisa
here. We
de
just need
financiamento
governance
climático, mas a
and
gente não
climate
precisa de
funding,
milagre. O
but we don't
milagre
need
talvez seja
miracles.
botar
Maybe
o
the
dinheiro na
miracle
coisa
is
certa, tirar o
to
dinheiro da
allocate
guerra
money to the
e
right
colocar o
thing, to
dinheiro
take the money away
realmente na
from
transição
wars
climática.
and
Dinheiro
allocate
tem,
it to the climate
né?
transition. We
Na
do
verdade,
have
um
money 2020,
Agora, temos que correr contra o
but we
tempo.
have to
Mas eu acho
rush
que boa
against
parte
time.
das soluções estão aí.
But I think most of the solutions are there.
Então, a inteligência artificial também nesse processo,
Artificial
ela tem
intelligence
que
in this
atuar
process
enquanto um
has to
potencializador
work
do
as a
conhecimento
potentializer
popular,
of
do conhecimento
the
tradicional.
popular
Porque
grassroots
se não
knowledge,
tiver
traditional
esse
knowledge,
diálogo
because if
direto
we don't have this
com
direct dialogue with
essa população,
this
ela será
population,
mais um modelo da
it'll be
reprodução
another
verde,
model
né, de
of the green
reconcentração, de
revolution,
exclusão
of
dos trabalhadores do
reconcentration,
campo.
exclusion
Então, como
of
que
the
você
rural
trabalha,
workers.
né,
So we
nessa
should
relação?
work
As máquinas
on
hoje, por
this
exemplo, que têm
relationship. The
sensores, que estão
machines today that have
já
sensors
utilizando
that
essas
already
iniciativas
use these
entrando aí, porque são
initiatives
grandes
are
máquinas que
mostly
não são
big
de acesso
machinery
para a agricultura
that are not
familiar, por
accessible
exemplo.
for
Então,
family
nós,
agriculture,
enquanto
for
MDA,
example.
parceria também
So as
com a
MDA,
Embrapa,
as the
com
Ministry of
outras
Environment,
iniciativas,
in
universidades,
partnership
institutos
with the
federais, estamos fazendo
Ministry of
grandes
Agriculture,
reformas, né?
I'm sorry, in partnership with the federal
Inovações para as
institutes
máquinas
and
adaptadas
universities,
para a
we are
agricultura
working on
familiar, com
innovation for
tecnologias,
machines that
mas
are
em pequeno
adapted for
porte,
family
né? E que
agriculture,
do valor
smaller
acessível
machines
para
with
que as pessoas
affordable
consigam
prices so that
utilizar,
people can
né?
use
Sem
them
precisar de
without
grandes áreas para a
needing
produção de
big
alimentos, porque
areas
tem
for
que
food
ter essa
production.
relação
Because
das
we need
pessoas
to
que estão
have this
produzindo alimentos
relationship with
ficar
the
no
people that
campo
are
com
producing
uma
food so that they can remain in
ciência,
the
né,
country
adaptada e
with with
compartilhada
an
com a
adapted
preservação e toda
science,
essa questão climática, porque esse agricultor, ao
including
mesmo tempo que ele
preservation
é
and the climate
vítima,
issues.
né,
These
das
farmers, they
questões
are
climáticas,
victims of
ele precisa
climate
se
issues,
adaptar. Por
but they need
exemplo,
to adapt.
os povos do Pará, da
For
Amazônia,
example, peoples
nunca
in
tinham
Pará and
vivido
the
tanta
Amazon,
seca que
they
nós estamos
never
enfrentando
faced
agora. Então, como que ele
so
vai
many
produzir
droughts as
alimento,
they're facing now. So
né?
how are they going to
Tem que ter um
produce
novo
food?
conhecimento sobre o
They need a
solo,
new knowledge on
assim
the
como as
soil
mudanças
as
climáticas
well
da
as
seca no sul,
the climate
né?
change that causes
E a
drought in the
inteligência artificial
south.
pode nos
So
auxiliar
artificial
nisso.
intelligence can
E
help us
também
with
outro
that.
fator que é muito importante,
Another
a gente
very
não pode
important
esquecer
factor that
que
we
esse
cannot
campo,
forget
ele
is
sempre
that
esteve
this
historicamente um
country has
espaço de conflito.
the countryside has
Não é
always
algo
been a space
romantizado.
of conflict.
E
The
a
countryside is not something
regularização fundiária,
romanticized.
quanto
And
mais precisa
land
for e mais
regularization, the more
rápida, ela
accurate it is,
evita
and the
esses grandes
faster it
conflitos.
is going to avoid these
Então,
conflicts.
quem sabe, né, o nosso passo
So
enquanto
maybe our step
humanidade
as
seja que essa
humanity
inteligência
is
também nos ajude
to have this
a ser mais
intelligence
ágil na
help us be
resolução
more
dos
agile
conflitos,
in
nas
solving
demarcações,
conflicts
na
and
definição dos
demarcation of
territórios, na
lands, the
regularização
definition of the
fundiária
territories,
e
the land
também
regularization,
definidos
and
os
also
espaços para
the
regularização
definition of the
ambiental,
spaces
né,
for environmental
necessária e
regulation
quanto mais
that is
ágil, melhor.
necessary. So
Então,
the more agile, the
que a
better.
COP também nos mostre que o Brasil tem muita
So
ciência, que o
COP
Brasil
should
também tem
show
muita
that Brazil
pesquisa,
has a lot of
né,
science, a lot of
inovação
research
para
and
apresentar
innovation
ao mundo.
to present to the world.
Era uma pergunta só, né? Então vamos finalizar.
Fazer uma rodada rápida de comentários e aí a gente fecha.
Like quick round of comments to wrap up. I wanted to use your question when you talked about language. I think this is an important moment for us to discuss that because we've always talked about climate and nature in a way that we said, oh, they're the communists hugging the trees. It's a separate agenda from the economic agenda or this development agenda. Uh,
E acho que a gente já passou dessa fase, né?
And I think
Então,
that
isso, o
this
Brasil
phase
tem
is
uma base
over.
de
Brazil
agro, mineração,
is,
tantas economias que
we
dependem
have a lot of
totalmente
mining and
da
agriculture,
biodiversidade,
and we depend on,
dessa forma
on
de
social
desenvolvimento
biodiversity
competitivo.
and
E
this
isso que é legal,
competitive
no momento que a gente fala de geopolítica, também é
advantage.
o Brasil
So,
na fila do pão
in this
dos
moment of
desafios. Não só por estar
geopolitical conflicts, we
do
should
tipo,
have
resultado que a gente tem de biodiversidade aqui no nosso país. Então,
our
eu acho que é esse
competitive
olhar também mais
advantage and
objetivo,
our
assim, sabe?
power
De
is
visão
in
de crescimento
in
econômico,
the
de
great
visão
environment.
positiva,
We are
de
talking
muito
about this
de geopolítica. Então,
economic
quando a gente
growth,
fala de natureza, a
this.
gente fala dessa
And
forma.
when we
E quando a
talk
gente fala
about
do IA também,
nature, we
vamos
have to
criar, né?
bring
O
this
futuro, puxa,
perspective.
mas agora
And
fica mais interessante ainda quando a gente fala
and
do
when we
presente,
talk
né?
about
Do início.
AI,
Porque
this
não é
is
o
this
fim,
must
né?
be a
Sabendo
premise. It's
logo
not
que a
the
gente
future
está
because
no
this is
fim
our
do que algumas
economic
décadas
base,
atrás a gente foi
and we're not so
exportando
different from
produtos
decades ago. We are
com um
exporting
valorização
commodities and importing
patrimonial, né? Mais desenvolvido. E a
industrial
gente está
products.
nisso.
So we should advance that, and you should export products that that go beyond grains, and they should have this higher potential. So the way as we dealt with the subject was a way that was concerning, and I've been reflecting upon that. The way we've been playing this game that is making us behind in the game. Maybe the form we treated the subject was not something interesting, as if it was a plus, but it's a premise. This environmental perspective and our technological development in the country. So this, I believe this is an important vision for us to have this attitude, this approach, since we have COP within a few weeks.
Só para concluir, acho que
Just
juntando as duas
to
perguntas
end
do
and
colega e do colega ali,
just to connect the two
legado
questions,
para
the
a
first
COP,
one you
e
asked
acho
and
que a
our
sua pergunta
colleagues
direcionava
questioned,
muito a
the
questão de
legacy
acesso, né?
to COP, and you were talking about
Vamos
access,
trazer
right?
algumas coisas para a
I
COP
think that we are going to
relacionadas,
bring
muito
some
relacionadas a isso,
things to
e
COP
que
related to
dificultam
that
também as vantagens
that also
comparativas do Brasil.
concern
Dos projetos
the
que vai ser
competitive
lançado
advantage
vai
from
ser o
Brazil. One of
Amazônia
the
Conectada,
projects
né, da
is the
Iniciativa
Connected
Liberal,
Amazon from the Ministry
e
of
a gente precisa
Communications.
reconhecer que
And we
é
must
o
acknowledge
maior
that
projeto
this is the
nível global
greatest
de
project at
infraestrutura, né, de
global
cabeamento
level
fluvial, né?
of
Então,
fluvial
esse é
cables.
grande, digamos assim,
So
a gente vai usar a COP como
we are
vitrine,
going
né,
to use
esse
COP as
projeto.
a showcase for
Eu
this
acho que
project,
isso, enfim,
and I
coloca
believe
também de
that
alguma forma
it
como
can
inspirar, né, outros
inspire
países também
other
a
countries
iniciativas semelhantes.
so
A
that they
outra
can have similar
questão que eu queria
initiatives. And the
chamar a
other
atenção também vai
issue
ser
I'd like
ligado
to
da
call the
COP, que
attention for
aqui a Giovana,
that will be
só
a
vou falar
COP
aqui
legacy. I'm
rapidinho,
seeing
depois
Enrique
vou
and
falar
Giovanna,
da
if I don't
COP,
talk
que é
about
a
that, they are
questão
going
da
to
infraestrutura pública
uh,
digital, do PI.
complain,
Esse
is
também vai
the
ser
PI and
outro
digital
grande tema
infrastructure.
que a gente
So
vai
this is
trazer
another
para a
topic that we are going
COP30.
to bring to
É a primeira
COP30.
vez que esse
It's the first
conceito
time
é
that this
trazido, né, no
concept is
âmbito
brought
de uma COP, e diz
to a COP,
respeito justamente à
and
questão de
it
você ter
concerns the issue
infraestrutura,
of
sistemas
having
digitais
public
com um
infrastructure
padrão aberto,
and
não
digital
proprietário, né, e que
themes
permita
that are open
maior,
source,
digamos assim,
so that we
execução das
can
plataformas
disseminate the
e uma maior
platforms
participação, né,
with a
coparticipação. Eu
greater
acho que esse, para o
co-participation.
enfrentamento da mudança do clima,
For us to
é
face climate
fundamental.
change, this is
Então,
key.
esse também eu acho que vai ser, espero que
So I
seja
believe
grande
this
tema.
is a
E,
great legacy for
finalmente,
this COP.
tema que eu acho
And
que aqui no
finally, a
Brasil
topic
tem
that I
crescido
believe that
muito, acho que
here
vai
in
ser um
Brazil has
grande,
been growing
a
a
gente pode
lot
servir como grande
is that,
referência
and we could be a
também para organizar
reference in the
outras
future,
COP, é geração de
is
cidadãos. Eu acho que
the
a gente tem vários
citizen
exemplos,
generation of
mais no
data.
ambiente
We
urbano,
have
né,
several
no
examples,
rural,
especially in the urban
mas
setting,
sobretudo
more than
nas
the rural
periferias de
setting,
grandes cidades,
especially in the
a gente
peripheries of
vê
great cities.
como
We see how
regiões, né, que são sendo
the
formadas
different
para
right,
de dados pelos, né, cidadãos,
um,
ela acaba gerando
and data is being harnessed by
conjunto de dados
citizens,
que muitas vezes
forming
é muito
this
melhor do que as
data
próprias
set
administrações
that many
públicas
times is
detêm.
much better than
Então é
the
algo
data
que
set that the public
esses
administration
coletivos,
has.
né, que a gente vê
So
emergindo em
these
São Paulo,
collectives that we see
Rio de
emerging
Janeiro,
in
né,
São Paulo, Rio de
esse é algo
Janeiro,
também que a
and
gente
other big
vai
cities in
destacar em
Brazil
evidência
is
na COP.
something that
Espero
we are
ver
going to highlight
resultados
at COP.
e outros
And
países
I hope
adotando
that
também
is going to become a legacy,
a ambição.
inspiring other developing countries to endorse that as well.
Eu vou encerrar.
I'm going to
Duas
end
frases que eu escutei
with
essa
two
semana
sentences
e
I've
que acho que
heard
nós
this
precisamos
week
trazer
and
para
that
cá.
help
A
us
primeira foi
think
dita
about
por
the
um VP
importance
de uma
of
empresa de
this COP.
tecnologia que investiu
One
um
by
trilhão
a
há
VP of
pouco
a
tempo, coisa
technology
militar.
company that
Em
invested
portas
1
fechadas,
trillion,
ele disse: o
and
maior negócio do mundo é exportar
it
dados
was
e
a
importar
closed door
IA.
meeting, and he said
O
the
negócio do mundo é
worst thing
exportar dados
in
e
the
importar
world is
IA.
to
O
export
que a gente
data and
conhece de
import
outras crises
AI.
econômicas como
And
essa
we know
pandemia.
that
Então, eu acho que
from
esse é
other
um desafio, uma oportunidade
problematic
que está usando dados
productive chains.
artificialmente
So this
para
is a
poder desenvolver
challenge
IA.
and an
E ele não só
opportunity
busca
to
um
use
lugar
data
para
from
pronto, já está
here
pronto para
and CAR is ready to import data from others and export solutions. And the second sentence came from someone totally different. I am at the Summit AI in Africa, and their first president in 1957, when uh, he held Kennedy's hand, and also the Soviet Union Minister of Science, and it was the Cold War. And he said, we shouldn't look east or west, we should look ahead. And this global south position is to look from the perspective of Brazil to the outside, not with the AI from Europe, from the United States, from China, but AI from Brazil. So thank you so much for your participation. Now it's the best part, that is the experiences of the selected projects. I'd like to invite Camila Borges, the secret of this challenge. Well, let's celebrate. We have several reasons to celebrate, as we mentioned here. In reality, 395 proposals coming from every corner of this country. From Amapá, the state of Amapá, we received proposals, and all the other states in Brazil. We have very different organizations, very small civil society organizations, very regional, very local, and civil society organizations that are traditional and big, well known in Brazil and outside of Brazil. We've received proposals from organizations that represent grassroots movements on family farm and farms, and also quilombola and indigenous peoples. We received proposals from different spheres and research hubs, public research centers, private ones, and even a proposal that was very curious from Antarctica. It should be part of the game or not. So that's showing that that people are willing to participate in this innovative Brazilian ecosystem with a lot of appetite to advance and improve. So it was a great result. So before calling you, I'd like to thank you. I think all this effort was possible because we had a huge team working with us. So I'd like to thank Fabro, ITS, on behalf of Fabro, for all the support, reading the 395 proposals, and working with us at every point. I'd like to thank Google support. It wouldn't be possible without them. And I'd like to thank each one of the people who couldn't be here from X team, from the program team, and they read carefully the 395 proposals. The donation team with Luiz and Catiani, they worked with the structuring of the public call and the bureaucratic process that is time consuming. The finance team helping us structure each one of the people from X who worked a lot. So this is not a work for of a single person, but it's a wonderful teamwork. And last, I'd like to thank the jurors. We had a body of jurors that was incredible, and it was a hard work. We were reading the proposal and we were, wow, what should we do? Because we wanted to approve all of them. But no, we needed to approve 8 of them. We had a fixed number. So I would like to thank you, Raquel Biderman Laranja, Sérgio Chudovski, Thaís, Fabro, Maria João, someone else? Pedro Ivo. And they were key for this process. Without further ado, Fabro, could you help me? We have a lot of people, I'm going to forget them. Without further ado, the projects must shine. And I'm going to call all of you here, and I will ask you to take your seats. I'm going to start with Diogo, who is representing Canindé, an organization of indigenous defense from the state of Rondônia, with the project
O projeto IA para monitoramento da
AI for the monitoring of biodiversity, detection of impacts in forest in the Amazon. And I would like to receive Marcela Araújo from IGPP, the Institute of Territorial Government and Public Policies from Piracicaba, state of São Paulo, with the project Intelligent Platform of Sustainable Rural Project, and Eric Civil Macedo and Juan Vajajara of the Study Center on Sustainability of the Getúlio Vargas Administration School at GV in Coiabe, with the project Intelligent System for the Forest and Monitoring at Amazon lands, Amazon indigenous lands. Valfrido Moraes, who came from Corumbá, and
Mato Grosso do Sul,
the state of Mato Grosso do Sul, from Embrapa Pantanal,
com o projeto
with the
Biodiversidade nos
project
Paisagens
Biodiversity in the Rural
Instrumentação
Landscapes
das
and Instrumentation of Public
O Diego
Policies.
Câmara
Diego
Salles,
Câmara
do Instituto
Salles
Federal do
from
Amazonas,
the Federal
lá do estado
Institute
do
of the
Amazonas,
Amazon in the state
com o projeto
of Amazonas, with
IA
the
para
project
Bio,
AI
Inteligência
for
Artificial para
Bio,
Predição de Riscos e
Artificial
Avaliação
Intelligence
do
for
Impacto
Risk
Ambiental do
Prediction
Solo
and
para a
Evaluation of
Biodiversidade
Fire
no
Events
Brasil.
in the Amazon
O André Segura
Biodiversity.
Tomasi,
André Segura
do IEB,
Tomasi
o
from
Instituto Internacional de Educação do Brasil,
IEB, the
Brasília,
International
com o projeto
Education
E,
Center
integrando
for
dados
Brasilia,
ecológicos e
with
econômicos da
this
bioeconomia
project
da castanha da
e,
Amazônia para análise e
integrating
espacial.
bioeconomic data from the
A
nuts in the
Patrícia
Amazon
Soares,
with AI
da
and
Fundação Espírito Santo Centro de
spatial
Tecnologia
knowledge. Patrícia
Científica,
Soares from
com o
Espírito Santo
projeto Lens
Technology Hub
Brasil,
with the project Lens
inteligência
from Brazil,
artificial,
artificial
decisões para a
intelligence
governança
contributing for
responsável.
the
E, por
responsible
fim,
governance. And
Laerte
last,
Guimarães
Laerte
Ferreira Júnior,
Guimarães
do LAPIG,
Ferreira Júnior from
Laboratório de
LAPIG,
Processamento de Imagens
the
e
Laboratory
Geoprocessamento
for
da Universidade
Image
Federal de
Processing
Goiás,
and Geoprocessing from the University of
com o
Goiás,
projeto
with the
Gestão
project
Sustentável da
Sustainable
Propriedade Rural,
Management of the
empregando
Rural
licenciamento
Property,
remoto e IA.
integrating
Então,
remote
Fábio,
sensors
o que
and
pedir
AI.
a eles?
Fabio, what should we request
CPF,
from them?
objetivo
To
e
be brief,
dizer o que é que eles
objective,
fizeram,
and say what
o que é
they
o projeto deles, o que a
did
gente leu.
with their projects, what we read.
Queria fazer uma correção. A Patrícia não pôde
Just a
vir, então
correction.
Camila,
Patricia couldn't come,
bem-vinda,
so Camila,
substituindo e
welcome,
representando a
replacing
FES.
and representing AFES.
Então, acho que a gente pode começar pelo Diogo.
We could start
né?
with Diogo.
É quase um pitch, né? Rápido.
It's a fast
Mas que
pitch.
problema você está resolvendo?
What problem are you solving?
Noite a todos e
Good
todas.
evening, everyone.
Prazer estar aqui.
It's a great
surpresa pra
pleasure to
gente,
be
né?
here. It's a
Uma
great
alegria imensa
surprise to
poder
us and a
concorrer
great
com
joy
vocês,
to
né,
compete
pessoal?
at this level.
Trazendo para quem não conhece a Canindé, né, que é uma
And
associação que foi
Canindé,
criada para
it's an
proteger um território,
association that was created to protect a
território
territory,
indígena rural de mais de
uh,
800 mil
the
hectares,
Wedawau
e
indigenous
ela até
land
hoje ainda
with
existe, né,
that
cerca da
exists
Chai
with more than
Suruí,
2 million
e a gente eu entro
hectares,
na
and
instituição
Chai
como
Surui is
tecnologia,
from
né,
there,
como
and I
biólogo.
enter with
Eu venho
technologies
também
on
como biólogo
innovation. And as a
estudando para saber
biologist,
quando que plantar árvore vai valer mais do que
I
plantar, né? E
I was
proteger as
asking
florestas. Então não
myself,
sei se vou só dar uma
planting trees
contextualização para você
should
entender
be
o que a
more
gente propôs,
appreciated
né,
than
aqui
cutting
nesses
them,
5 anos.
and we wanted to make that happen.
É,
So,
para quem
for
conhece ou para quem não
those who
conhece,
know
o desmatamento começa muito antes da cidade
deforestation, it
estar totalmente
starts
colapsada.
before
Né? Então
it
tem
starts to
desmatamento
collapse.
seletivo, tem várias
We have the
interferências antes do
selective
desmatamento.
deforestation
E se
with
a gente
different
pudesse, então minha dor, né,
interferences.
como
So
biólogo,
something
como alguém
changed. And
que
my
já
pain as a
trabalhou a campo,
biologist and someone who
correndo
has
atrás de
worked
bandido, correndo de
at
bandido, e
the
vocês podem
the
imaginar o que a gente já
place
passou,
running
né, dentro
after criminals, and you
dessa
may
floresta
imagine what
amazônica.
we have
Como é que a
experienced
gente
in this
identifica
Amazon forest.
precocemente?
How could we
Tem que ser simples.
early identify what's
Quando
happening?
apareceu a
It
AI,
must
eu
be
falei, tá
simple.
aí,
So when AI
pessoal, e se a gente
came,
conseguisse
I said, that's
identificar
it. If we could
que mudou alguma coisa, eu
identify
não sei, mas
that
mudou.
something changed, something,
Então
I
é
don't know
isso.
what,
A
but
IA
something changed.
usando
So
múltiplos
AI is
dados
using
processados,
several
multispectral, RGB,
sources,
que ela
as
pudesse adaptar, chegar
RGB
ali
and
e falar
other
pra gente, mudou,
spectral
vai lá ver.
activities that could show us that it changed before the fire and total deforestation. And that shouldn't be a tool that you like, geez, you teach the indigenous peoples and you want them to have a room building different maps. It should be automatic. It should be an WhatsApp alert showing that something's happening. And and no one is going to start deforestation overnight. They remove one and then the other with the selective deforestation that goes beyond. It's an interference in the Amazon, where we estimate that we have 20% of degradation in the Amazon, and we have 38% more beyond 20%. So how do we identify that without having this expensive technology that we need drones? I don't have to identify the species that is gone. I only what is gone. So this forest intelligence is to be able to monitor this way with cheap image, open image with low resolution, identifying that it changed. And in partnership with ICM Bio, with SEMA, we were able to test that so that we could have the identification of the selective deforestation that is bringing the money to promote the rest. And then the collapse is expensive and restoring is very expensive. So this is the technology, and what was mentioned here is that it's our technology. We are investing in this Federal Institute to have AI, this local AI and this local map service, and not using a cloud from the outside that is going to use our data. And now we're having students and teachers from Brazil investing in technology to be used in the Amazon, for the Amazon, and maybe to the world. Who knows?
Muito obrigado.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, and have a great work ahead of you. Marcela? Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I am talking on behalf of IGPP. It's our recent institute. It's quite recent, but we have a long history as a research group at Exalc. For 25 years, it has been supporting public policies. I'd like to thank X and Google for the opportunity. Our team was very happy, the youth behind us, and I'm trying to represent them. We know that our idea emerged from observing this connection agenda in the attempt of trying to connect a little bit the urban Brazil from the Brazil that is producing. 85% of the Brazilians live in less than 1% of the national territory, and a good deal of the resources are going to the field are funded by us using the Safra plan, and that is mobilizing more than 500 million reais per year.
It is still a great challenge understanding to whom this rural credit is going to. Even though we had an advance in the context of the Safra plan to incorporate social environmental criteria and measures in the last few years, we still have a great challenge, which is a fragmented data set, complex to be worked with, that hampers the work of the public policy administrators, the transparency on where this credit is going to, so that we can try to measure the impacts and the effects. Is that a specific credit line with the intention of practicing a more sustainable agriculture and contributing to the climate agenda is actually complying with the goals and answering the goals that were placed. That is a challenge that we identified, and this is our proposal to build this intelligent platform, smart platform. The idea is to use geospatial information with artificial intelligence to integrate land and environmental data and data of rural credit nationally. So in practice, the platform will try to provide the information of which properties are complying with the social environmental criteria and where the credit is going to. But it goes beyond that. We're going to work with modeling of the forest code with the states to improve this modeling, so it will be capable of to support the compliance with our restoration goals and look at how the conservation of our native vegetation areas is. This is a great challenge. We have had a lot of work ahead, but our main focus is to give transparency, and the platform will be a public access platform for the whole society. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Marcela, parabéns. Muito bom estar trazendo a juventude.
Very nice to bring the youth with us, especially with AI, and I pass the floor now to Eric for his presentation. Good afternoon, good evening, actually. I would like to thank ICS, Google, ITS, and the judges of this challenge for the opportunity that it is to be here. We were very happy with this selection. This project comes from a network of independent monitoring that FGV says, the Center of Studies on Sustainability of FGV coordinates for 5 years. And this network gathers several civil society organizations and research institutions, community leaders that somehow work with territorial monitoring. And we are now thinking about these different categories of monitoring. And we have consolidated as a space of exchange among these initiatives and organizations. We have been developing a close work with COIAB that has a indigenous territorial management. We have carried out a few events together with the expectation of having some project where we could work together. And with this opportunity, we're now going to work to produce with COIAB a territorial management system to COIAB. The idea is to work with the data sovereignty context, since COIAB works currently with a series of different platforms and data sets that are relatively disintegrated. The idea is to build with COIAB an infrastructure of data and a monitoring system with indigenous management. We're going to do this in partnership with the School of Applied Mathematics of FGV, the Getúlio Vargas Foundation. We are going to be a bridge between COIAB and the School of Mathematics, translating the demands and the possibilities. And Professor Dario Oliveira, that has a long experience in modeling with artificial intelligence, with geospatial data, will join us. And the idea is to have a very interesting conversation with them so that we can potentialize this data, both satellite monitoring data and the data collected in the field by indigenous professionals trained by COIAB, and with artificial intelligence so that we can generate automatized warnings with an exchange between these warnings and what is collected in the field by the monitoring agents. Juan is going to talk about the management. I am the only indigenous person in this couch. I will excuse myself to stand up so that we can move our body around. Like these methodologies, I'm a teacher, and I will comment your speech. You said that there were many localized and regionalized proposals, but I feel like my small group was selected because today COIAB is a big organization that represents the indigenous peoples of the Amazon, and we have been taking small steps for this proposal of a monitoring system, a platform, a smart monitoring system that analyzes and is prepared for the pressures that the territory suffers. So today we embrace this opportunity very dearly. It is an opportunity that will structure us when we talk about the structuring of database and the structuring of smart monitoring. The monitoring management of COIAB is going to be very powerful. So we thank you very much for this opportunity, and we understand that COIAB today has a very strategic position in the debate that we have held on the Amazon and climate resilience. So it's strategic that COIAB centers the data and information, and that is capable to have this smart monitoring system. This is the biggest switch of this proposal to facilitate something that takes days with a team of indigenous agents to validate a fire, a wildfire, or a deforestation spot. It takes long, but if we have smart monitoring, things change and become more powerful. That is why we bring this technical, but also this grassroots perspective to occupy this couch and occupy the resources as well. Congratulations. Thank you for talking about the monitoring system. And now I'll pass the floor to Valfrido. Thank you very much to ICS first for the opportunity, for the assistance in the elaboration. The team that gave us support in the different phases of the project was amazing. I was surprised also with the approval of our project. And I would like to contextualize a little where this project comes from and where it fits. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence. We took the biodiversity aspect of the call because, for example, I'm an advisor of the Brazilian delegation in OECD for agriculture and environment. And OECD has discussed biodiversity indicators in the countries that are members. Brazil is attempting to be a member, and that these countries have to do periodic reports. The only biodiversity indicator that they had was the counting of birds in the agricultural areas. And the first meeting that I went, I said, it doesn't work. How will a country like Brazil count birds in this scale of ecosystem with almost 2,000 species of birds? I said, we need to use state-of-the-art technology. In Europe, it may work, but not in Brazil. OECD was about to publish this protocol, demand this from the countries. They recalled it. They opened up the discussion again, and we inserted that countries like Mexico, Canada, Australia didn't even send the report. How are we going to count birds? And that became a big disruption in the last 4 years that I took part in these meetings. And in the meeting where I was, another meeting that I was present, I mentioned the forest code. People were surprised. They said, what is this that you have in Brazil? You cannot use that as an indicator. And I said, we will, because the agricultural landmark in Brazil, landscape in Brazil, where we have the biggest difficulties of biodiversity concentration, is huge. Brazil has a very good legislation. The rural property that does any kind of activity, licensing takes into account the forest code, the area of restricted use, the APPs, the legal areas. This has to do with the climate because we're also protecting the rivers, the springs. In Brazil, as a non-member, was invited for a pilot project of indicators of biodiversity of the agricultural landscape, and we are putting Mato Grosso do Sul as a pilot. So this project was exactly in this context, fit exactly this context, and the idea is to have a proposal that results in biodiversity information. It's not biodiversity mapping, because we have huge gaps, taxonomy gaps, time gaps. We don't have data on biodiversity. Unfortunately, Brazil is poor on biodiversity data. We're talking about microorganisms, from microorganisms to a chestnut tree. So we want to capture the response of biodiversity and do inferences where with artificial intelligence on how the agricultural landscape contributes and how we can improve it without changing the production logics, because someone said we must not look at the west or the east, we must look ahead. But I say we have to leave the trenches. The solutions are out of these trenches. So the project is in the sense of placing this technology of artificial intelligence and environmental DNA to answer these questions. And artificial intelligence will be the instrumentalizer and operationalizer of this kind of work at a national scale. Thank you. Thank you, Valfrido. This is a project that Maria João and we had to struggle to explain. We had to study a lot because that was really out of the curve. And the question from the jury was, well, does it work? And it does really work.
Diego?
Bem, pessoal, boa noite. Quero agradecer a oportunidade, né, de participar.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this call. I'm going to explain the project. In 2023, in Amazonas, the Federal Institute of Amazonas had to close its doors because of a lot of smoke. So there were a lot of fire outbreaks in the forest that reached Manaus and brought calamity to us. I am a researcher in the area of robotic automation and artificial intelligence, and I searched for information on what was happening in our city. I searched for knowledge and information with the Center of Surveillance of Amazonas. I got to know about the format where they do the monitoring, and I found out that the monitoring was reactive. When the fire happened, they called the different entities to put out the fire. But I asked, couldn't we do anything to have a prediction, to identify what is happening, the biome, the soil that is being affected, the impact of that? And they said no. So we wanted to identify this possibility. In 2023, we wrote a project. We kept it shelved. We waited for the right moment. So this call happened, and we were very happy to submit our project. It was a project between IFA and integration with Embrapa and IMPA. The objective is to use AI to do a predictive monitoring, to identify the focuses, the outbreaks of heat, the outbreaks of fire, identify the climate, to do a prediction. People who work with artificial intelligence will predict what would be necessary to have a better response to the wildfires. So we wanted to provide an AI that shows traces that population that is in a vulnerable condition can have mitigation actions before the fire happens. So the project started from this need, and in the Federal Institute of Amazonas with FIEP, our foundation, we wrote this project using a server for the development of the AI with the purpose of getting 20 years of data from Sensipa to analyze, integrate with people who analyze biomes. There are people who use this data for other manual work, and AI can help us in this initiative. This project certainly is going to bring great results regarding the integration among the organizations, and we're open to partnerships with other entities because this is an AI that will enable us to do the prediction and to use intelligence for the future planning of Brazil. Congratulations. It's another project that deals with wildfires. We heard a lot from the judges the importance of addressing the wildfires. It is very important to gather 20 years of data and generate value from it. This is very important, specifically for data related to climate. André, next.
Alô. Bom, pessoal, boa noite. Antes de mais nada,
Good
agradecer.
evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the people who are here from ICS and Google for the partnership and the trust and for choosing our proposal. We appreciate this trust on us, and we are happy that you thought our proposal was good. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is André. I am part of IAB, the Education Institute of Brazil, and we are part of OCA, the Castanha Observatory of the Amazon. IEB started in 2015 working with this economy of the castanha, the nuts in the Amazon, working with the collectors and the extractivists to train them, to facilitate their access to public policies. This has consolidated over the past few years, and we created this network in a crisis of multilateralism. As the colleague said, he brought this pessimistic outlook. The colleague here talked about metaphysics. So in this moment of crisis of multilateralism, I think that we, despite not being part of an international system, we are proof in the Nut Observatory of the Amazon that cooperation works. This non-state multilateralism, this multilateralism of the civil society really works, these networks that we are a part of. So we are a sample that it works. The institutions can cooperate in a network. So the Nut Observatory of the Amazon was created with this will to address problems with mutual cooperation between parties. Very much connected to the Brazilian civil society organizations that work with nuts. So OCA is made up of over 110 organizations among associations, organizations, cooperatives that work with nuts. We have 230 members, people that are connected to the extractivism and collection of nuts. We have 230 people from the 110 organizations involving 80 territories.
And everything started with technology, bringing together these people from this WhatsApp group. So we used to joke at the IEB that the project was a WhatsApp group, and on that same year, WhatsApp won an election in Brazil. So the technologies show they are a key for engagement, for social mobilization. It's a way for us to work with engaging 130 activists who are part of the network. And our proposal is such that we understand that it's hard for the cooperatives to understand the price of the nut at a point during the process. We don't know the price. So making decision is very complicated. Is the amount fair? is
o próprio
the
Estado,
amount that the
com as políticas
company is
tão
offering
custas,
or the state is
vale a
offering
pena
with the
negociar, vale a
public
pena segurar?
purchase. Is it a fair
Então,
price?
a gente
Is
está
it
nesse tema,
enough?
nesse
Is it
tema de
worthwhile to
inteligência ecológica
hold
e
the nuts a
econômica,
little bit
que é
more?
a questão,
So this
a galera da
this
matemática vai entender, o
intelligence
IP com
system that is
uma sigla em
IE
complexo em cima, que é o tema da
nuts,
potência, né?
i.e.
P2.
castanhas
Então, inteligência
in Portuguese.
ecológica e
So it's
econômica. Então, a
ecological and
oferta de
economic
castanha,
uh,
ela é feita por fatores ecológicos.
intelligence,
Então, se eu for uma
because the
indústria, uma empresa
supply
que
of
produz
nuts
castanha
is
numa máquina,
is being
numa
offered
indústria
by
de
this
floresta,
ecological supply.
né?
You depend
E
upon the
assim,
forest. So
numa racionalidade econômica simples de
with
oferta e
this
demanda, quem
simple
dá a oferta de
economic
castanha é a máquina de
rationality
floresta.
of supply and
Então, a gente
demand,
depende
who
de
is
dados
providing the
ecológicos de
nuts is the
floração,
forest. So we need
precipitação de umidade.
ecological data
Então, você saber
on
se aquele ano vai ser um ano de
humidity,
muita neve ou pouca castanha.
on
Isso
the
vai influenciar no
flowers,
preço
to
da
understand
oferta, né?
if you're
Depende,
going
tem
to
muitas
have
questões
a lot of nuts or
relacionadas
less
à
nuts,
floresta.
and the supply is
E,
connected to the forest.
e aí, então a gente precisa
Then we
para
need,
determinar essa tendência de preços,
in order
entender
to
quais são os
determine
fatores da
the
floresta e
price
os fatores
trend,
da economia que
we need to
influenciam
understand
nessa
the
tendência de
factors
preços.
from the
Isso
forest
é
and
um cenário
from
de
the economy that
tendências,
are
um
influencing the
cenário de
price generation. So we
previsibilidade
have the
no
scenario
pós-safra,
of
que é algo que
different
não existe
trends, a
atualmente.
predictability
Esse
during
é um
the
exemplo com
harvest,
IA,
something that doesn't
para a gente
exist.
tentar, então,
So it's
cruzar esses
IE
dados que
with
influenciam no preço,
AI to cross
dados
the data
econômicos, né?
influencing
Inflação,
the price with
custo de
economic data such
desenvolvimento,
as
tudo isso influencia
inflation, fuel
no
price,
preço dos
food
combustíveis. E
price,
os fatores
everything is going
ecológicos,
to
que
influence.
é a
And also the
floração,
ecological
precipitação, junto com
factors
tendências
such as
de
rainfall
extrativistas que já
and
também já
flower.
estão, na verdade,
And with the
coletando esses
network
dados.
of
É uma iniciativa
200
que já começou,
activists
em
who are collecting
2019,
the data, it's an
então
initiative that
é algo
started in
que já está em
2019,
desenvolvimento.
something
A gente tem
that's
essa
been
rede
developed.
constituída, apoiando
We
com os
have this
dados,
network
né?
established, supporting
Para
us
a gente
with
ter
data, so that we can have
previsão
a
mais
scenario
de mais
for
confiança, com previsibilidade, né?
reliable
Para essa economia tão
predictions
importante,
for
né?
this very
Que
important
gera,
economy that is
estima-se que
generating
4 bilhões de reais
4
por ano.
billion reais per year,
É muito maior que várias economias, né? Eu estava inclusive no
much
carro,
greater
na
than
rádio,
many other
no mercado, por
economies.
exemplo, de turismo, de
For instance, I
cruzeiros no
was
Brasil,
listening
movimenta
on
2
the
bi,
radio
né?
that the
Então,
cruise
nós
market
acabei
in
da
Brazil
presidência,
is moving
né, somos importantes, então,
to
nesse cenário
be. So we are a
macroeconômico
very
brasileiro e
important
também de
market in
conservação da
the
floresta.
Brazilian
Então,
scenario, and
a
also
gente
to
entrou até nessa
conserve
linha que o Júlio falou,
the forest
dessa perspectiva da biodiversidade, né? E não da, e a gente fala que
with
não é
this
só da
biodiversity
bioeconomia, né? A gente fala que a
perspective,
bioeconomia se escreve com S, né? Da sociobiodiversidade. Então a gente depende
social
muito dessas
biodiversity.
pessoas que estão lá na mata, estão lá na floresta e que
So we
tiram também o seu
depend
sustento,
upon
a
the
sua renda
people
a
on the
partir da
forest
coleta, do
who are
extrativismo
getting their
da castanha. Tá
livelihoods
bom?
from
Então,
the nuts
queria
as
agradecer também o pessoal aqui
extraction.
da equipe que está aqui,
So
a Juliana,
I'd
o
like
Henrique,
to
o
thank
Fernando, o Thiago, que também
Juliana,
fazem parte. Pessoal, muito
Tiago,
obrigado também por isso e agradeço
Fernanda,
também
thank you. And
pelo
I'd like to
sucesso da
thank you
seleção. A gente
for
agradece muito.
the
Obrigado.
selection. Thank you so much.
Eu vou abusar aqui da minha liberdade com o Fábio, né, e quebrar o
I'm
protocolo um pouco.
going to break the protocol to tell you a story that is related to your project, because I was very pleased to see this project approved,
Na minha
because
história de conexão com o mundo
in
digital,
my
minha primeira jornada,
story with this impact connection, my first journey when I moved to the Amazon is that I founded this nut processing company focusing on fair commerce. So a great deal of the suppliers were indigenous units, and we were concerned about the effective impact. And one of the ways to understand is with the nut price, how much we were paying the providers. And it was hard for us. When I saw your project, it was extraordinary. And there's this curious story because this company was the first certified company in Brazil. It was born in the Amazon. And one of the ways, one of the requirements to have the certification of this B system is to prove the impact. And one way to prove the impact was to show that we had fair commerce we had a better remuneration to the communities than the average. And our goal was paying the double of the market, and we couldn't find the market price. And at the end, we had this indicator from CONAB. It was very precarious, but it served as a parameter so that we could have this B certification. So when I saw your project, I was very pleased because it made me remember my past. Congratulations to you. Camila, would you like to go on?
Certo, obrigada.
Thank
Boa
you.
noite a todos e
Good evening,
todas.
everyone.
É uma alegria e uma honra estar aqui
It's a
representando
great
a
honor
Fundação Espírito
and
Santense
joy
de
to represent
Tecnologia,
the Espírito Santo's
em nome da
Technology
nossa gestora Patrícia
Institution
Brunhão
on behalf of
Soares,
Patricia
que
Sunhares, our
realizou esse
managers,
projeto com
who
excelência. E nós somos
performed
muito
this
gratos por estar
project
participando aqui
with excellence, and
de um
we are very grateful
excelente,
to
grandes
participate
projetos
here
parceiros aqui.
together with different
Bom,
partner
a
projects.
plataforma Terras do Brasil,
The platform
ela diz
Terras do
respeito
Brasil,
à governança fundiária.
Lands from
O
Brazil,
objetivo
concerns
é pegar todos
land
os
governance.
sistemas
The
e
objective
bases de
is
dados
to bring
governamentais
all the
e da
government
sociedade
database and
civil
systems, and
e fazer
also
um
systems
sistema
from civil
modular,
society, to have this
interoperável e
modular
escalável
system that is
para que se reduza a
interoperable and
simetria
scalable, so
informacional.
that we can
Então, o
reduce the informational
objetivo é
asymmetry. So the
verificar
objective is to
o
verify
monitoramento das
the
terras
monitoring of
públicas,
public land,
verificar condições de
verify
regularização
the
dos
conditions
produtores,
to
pequenos
regulate the
familiares,
different producers
produtores
and
familiares,
uh, family
comunidades
producers
quilombolas e
and Quilombo
comunidades
communities
tradicionais,
and traditional
para que
communities,
eles,
so
caso
that
sejam irregulares,
in
possam
case
ter
they are not
uma forma de
regular, they could
facilitar
have
esse
a way
acesso à
to
regularização da
have
terra,
an easy
possam
access to
acessar
land
crédito
regulation,
e outros
accessing
benefícios
credit
a
and
partir
other
dessa
benefits from
integração dos
this
dados, né,
data
de
integration
vários sistemas que
from
estão
different
difusos nesse
systems
momento. Então,
disseminated
a
around
plataforma
Brazil.
ela pretende
So
dar
this platform
essa escalabilidade
aims
para
at
qualquer outra
providing
coleta de
scalability to
informação
any
que
other
tenha
information
a ver
collection
com a
that
questão
has to
fundiária.
do with land
A FEST, a
management.
fundação, é uma
The
fundação de
foundation
apoio
FAST
a
is a foundation
instituições
that
de ciência e
supports
tecnologia, então
science
nós
and
estamos muito
technology
felizes
institutions.
de
So
estar
we are very happy
conectados
to
com
be
com o
connected
desafio
to
IA,
this
né?
challenge of AI,
Clima e Sociedade, e agradecemos
AI,
muito
climate, and society.
ao Google,
And
ao
I would
Instituto
like
Clima e
to thank
Sociedade,
Google and the
e é
Institute
isso.
for
Muito
Climate and
obrigada.
Society, and that's it. Thank you.
Muito obrigado, Camila.
Thank you so much, Camila. And an important part of this public call is that all the data should be uh, as open as possible, and the technology as well, for us to have interoperability and for us to be based upon the technology. So, Laerte, to wrap up.
Bom, boa noite a todos.
Good evening,
Primeiro, eu
everyone.
quero dizer que
First, I'd like to say that
nós do
us
LAPIG, que é
from
laboratório de sensoriamento
LAPIG,
remoto,
a
em uma
remote
universidade
sensor
pública
lab
federal,
in a
nós
federal
estamos
public university,
muito felizes.
we are very happy.
Assim, e particularmente, eu estou muito feliz de estar aqui,
And I'm very happy to be here
porque ao ouvir cada uma das
because
outras 7
after
narrativas,
listening to
projetos,
the
outros 7
7
projetos
other
contemplados, eu vejo
projects
potencial de
contemplated,
sinergia
I
muito
see
grande, né?
a great
Então,
potential for
e
synergy.
obviamente com alguns
And
projetos
of course,
mais,
we have
um
some
pouco menos,
projects a little
mas eu acho
more
que a
and
gente
others a
vai,
little less,
com
but
certeza,
I believe that
construir
we are going to
essa sinergia,
build
buscar essa
this
sinergia para
synergy
potencializar
so that
recursos
we can
e também potencializar o potencial de
empower the
transformações.
resources and the
Falando
potential for
rapidamente, né,
transformation.
pouquinho por que nós submetemos esse
Briefly
projeto ao IX e
explaining
essa
why we
chamada ela veio
submitted
num
to this
momento,
project to
talvez
IX,
não
and this
todas as demais
public call
chamadas, mas
was
veio num momento muito
came
especial
in
para a
a very
gente.
special moment to us.
O LAPIG é um laboratório que há
LAPIG is
31
a lab
anos,
that
né, nós
for
somos um laboratório que
31
faz
years
basicamente sensoriamento remoto.
has been doing remote
E
censoring.
a partir de 2008,
And
né,
from
por conta de
2008,
a gente sempre buscou muitas parcerias
well,
e a
we
gente começou a
always try to
trabalhar a partir de
establish many
2008
partnerships.
com o
And from
mapeamento
2008, we started working with the
de
mapping
pastos.
of
E
pastures.
aí a gente sempre tem muitas
And
anedotas de por
then
que nós
we
fomos para
tell
isso,
many
mas
stories
foi em particular
on
momento
why
em
we
que o
started with
Brasil
that. Because it was a
retomava
moment
o
when
seu
Brazil
programa de
was
biocombustíveis
returning to this biofuel program with ethanol, and
aonde, né, que vai ocorrer essa expansão
we were trying to understand
E a
where we
expectativa
would
era que
expand
se daria
this
sobre áreas de pastagens,
this
e nós tínhamos que conhecer melhor
sugar
aonde que dentro
alcohol
dessas pastagens,
expansion.
mas
So
também a
we would
condição dessas
use pastures, but we had to
E
understand
em
more about their
2014,
conditions.
a
So in
Google mudou a nossa maneira
2014,
de trabalhar.
Google changed our way
Eu
to
estava aqui
work.
pensando, né, a Google, eu penso muito nisso. A Google, ela fez uma revolução muito positiva na
Google made
maneira
a
como nós
positive
trabalhamos com
revolution
dados
on
estratégico.
as we
Dados
work
extremamente
with land
estratégico.
data,
E a partir de
remote
2013,
sensoring data.
2012, a
From
Google ela lançou uma plataforma
2013,
experimental
Google
que
has
ela
launched this
chamava de Google
experimental
Playground.
platform that was
E
called
que em
Google Playground.
2014 ela
And in
passa a ser
2014,
Google
it
Earth
started
Engine.
to be
E aquilo
Google
foi uma
Earth
revolução.
Engine. And
E
that
eu
was a
sempre falo
revolution.
isso,
And I always
como
mention
sou
that.
professor,
Well,
e
I'm
eu
a
falo que
professor,
essa revolução
and I say
talvez assim,
that
ela vai
this revolution
ter acesso a uma nuvem de
has
dados,
to
a
do
uma nuvem de processamento.
with
A partir
access
de
to this
2014,
data
a gente
cloud
passa a ter
and
acesso à dimensão temporal dos
processing
dados.
cloud.
Isso
And
não é
from
trivial.
2014,
Se
we had
trabalhava com
access
poucas
to
ocupações
the
pequenas, e a
time
gente passa a
dimension.
trabalhar
And this
com
is not
séries
something
temporais. Né?
that is
E
not
nós,
meaningful because now we
no
have time
LAPIG, nós trabalhamos
series.
muito com séries
And at
temporais.
LAPIG, we
Nós
work with this
integramos
kind
a
of
partir de
series.
2015, surge o Map Biomas. No Map Biomas, o LAPIG é o responsável pelo
From
mapeamento e monitoramento das
2015,
pastagens
we start
brasileiras.
with map
E o
biomes,
Map
and we
Biomas
are
surge também com
responsible
uma
for
parceria
the mapping of
extremamente
pastures.
importante,
And
fundamental com a
map
Google.
biome emerges
Bom,
from this fundamental
agora a Google
partnership
mudou
with
novamente a
Google.
nossa vida.
And now Google
Claro que
has
essas
changed
mudanças nos
our
trazem
lives again. Of course, these changes are bringing
perturbações muito bem-vindas. A Google, há
welcome
cerca de
disruptions.
2
Google,
meses,
around
3
two
meses,
months
ela
ago,
criou
3 months
uma
ago, it
mudança
has
com
created
a
a
Google. É interessante
change.
quando a gente fala de IA,
When we talk about AI,
tudo mais ou menos esse grande momento da IA é
and
algo
this
que
great
a gente
moment of
remonta lá para a
AI,
década de
something
50,
that
década de 40,
goes
mas
back
esse
to
grande
the
momento que a
40s and
gente
the
vive,
50s.
de
And this
certa
great
forma,
moment that we
o
live
nascimento
somehow
dessa revolução
is
tem a ver com
the
dois momentos.
the
Um é o AlphaGo,
the
quando
birth
em
of this new
2016 o
moment
AlphaGo
with
ganha o
AlphaGo in
campeonato
2016 when
mundial
it
de Go, e
when they
depois aquilo se
win
transforma em AlphaFold, né? Na verdade, não se
the
transforma, é
world
uma decorrência
championship
que
of
ganha o
Go,
Prêmio Nobel de
and
Química,
then
não sei se você sabe,
the
de Química.
chemistry Nobel
O
Prime,
AlphaFold Química,
AlphaFold
Química, Química.
chemistry
Foi o Jeffrey Hinton, que
with
foi
Jeffrey
vice-presidente da
Hinton,
Google.
that was the vice president
De
of Google.
Química. Mas o fato é que
But the
agora a
fact is
Google, em
that now
2017, ela lança, né, um
Google in
paper seminal chamado
2017
Attention is All You
has
Need.
launched the
E
seminal
agora
paper
Google
called
está
Attention
complicando a
is
nossa
All
vida,
You
né? Vamos
Need.
dizer
And now
em
Google
boas
is
complicações.
complicating our
Ela
lives
está
in
trazendo
a good
attention
way,
para o pixel.
bringing attention to pixel.
E aí, só mais um pouquinho de história. Hã? O pixel é um elemento de imagem, né? Todos
Pixel
aqui, eu
is
acho
an
que
image
quase todos
element.
têm
I
celular
believe you all
com
know
câmera, né?
because you all
Com
have
pixel.
cell phones
E a
with cameras,
Google, a
with
gente no
pixels,
mundo do sensoramento
and
remoto, há
us
muitos
from
anos,
this
a
remote
gente usa um
sensoring
termo que
world,
é chamado
we
ARD,
use this term
Analysis Ready
called
Data.
RD,
E a Google
analysis
agora
ready
criou o
data,
Analysis Ready
ART.
Deep
And
Learning. Ela trouxe a
now Google
inteligência
is
artificial.
creating analysis
Na verdade, essa tecnologia, de certa
analysis
forma, criada
readiness
pela
deep
Google,
learning. So
em
this
2014
technology
veio com
was
junto
created by
com
Google. In
outros modelos fora da
2014, it
Google, e a
emerged
Google
with
agora
other models
vai
outside of
facilitar o
Google.
nosso trabalho
And
nesse
Google now
projeto. Eu
will
estava preocupado,
facilitate
né, que a
our
gente ia
work
fazer
with this
algumas coisas
project. I was
que a
concerned
gente tinha
with how
prometido,
we
e a
would do
Google
some of the things
trouxe,
that we were promising.
ela
But
trouxe, ela
Google
fez uma revolução no
made
chamado
a
Foundation
revolution
Models,
in the
e
foundation
ela trouxe os
models,
embeddings,
bringing the
que é a IA dentro do
embeddings,
pixel. Traz
AI
contexto,
within
e aí
pixels,
tentando
bringing
simplificar
context,
e já indo para
and
a
trying to
proposta
simplify
propriamente dita,
and talking about
mas
the
a
proposal
Google,
itself,
ela está de uma maneira
Google,
inédita,
in
ela
an
fez com que
unprecedented
cada
way,
pixel de 10 metros de resolução espacial do
transformed
mundo
each 10-meter
tivesse
pixel in the world
essa ideia
in
de
terms
contexto
of space
espacial e
resolution,
contexto
had this
temporal.
idea of
E
temporal
uma coisa que sempre
and
me incomodou nos
spatial
mapeamentos que nós
context.
fazemos,
And something
isso
that
qualquer
always
grupo no mundo,
um, upset me is that we bring the satellite image and we map each pixel at a time. Of course, we do that in a fast way, but as if that pixel didn't have a context, didn't have neighbors in space and time. And now we have the neighbors, and thinking and talking about the proposal very quickly. Our proposal has two main references. Brazil has great public policies, and two of them specifically are the APC Plus plan with low carbon agriculture, and more recently, the National Plan for the conversion of degraded pasture. And early on, someone made a comment, a question in reality. How do we make that reach the field? And there's a difference of scale between this public policy and how this is accepted or accessed by those on the field. And for those on the field, in our understanding, we have the family small producer. The great producer is able to adapt to the European Union deforestation regulation, to everything, and very fast. The issue is how to make accurate, precise data and high-quality information reach the small producer in the countryside of the state of Tocantins in a fast, understandable way. So this is the driver of our project, LAPIG. Before I knew about open science, we believed in open science. We believed in collaborative science. All of our codes are at the GitHub, in the lab, and we submitted this proposal. We saw this public call. And this public call had two main pillars. One, producing maps that make sense for small rural properties. We are talking about 0.1 hectare precision. We have great maps. Brazil has something fantastic called map biomes. We are part of map biomes, but our maps, due to several reasons, they are still able to show great patterns and trends. How to make these maps guide the management in a small property, rural property, guiding the small rural producers to understand when it's time to rotate the cattle, when it's time to recover a pasture. And we have this optimistic belief that at the end of the day, that could prevent new deforestation. So the fundamental premise of our project, one of them is to bring artificial intelligence for pixel, producing more reliable maps, faster maps, something that we call on the fly, producing maps very quickly. And the other issue is to make this data reach who needs it. And how to make this information in real time, near real time, that it could be available to the small producer in the countryside of Pará, the state of Pará, or Cerrado, or the Cerrado, or the Amazon. So, and we are thinking about an app. So, in the middle of this journey, we left the app aside, and in reality, what we are going to do, and this is the great delivery of this project, is this service based on this multi-agent architecture in a way that someone with WhatsApp, wherever they are, they could literally talk to WhatsApp, taking pictures of the property, and we are going to host everything at Google servers. And the idea is that we are able to provide maps on WhatsApp with different information and decision-making support, so that this person, on the other hand, could provide pictures, enabling us to balance our models. So we are going to provide data as the stock of feed in real time using satellite image. We have constellations and so public free image, especially Sentinel-2. Thank you.
Para encerramento e pré-coquetel, passo a palavra para
So for the wrap up and our pre-cocktail speech, I pass the floor to Thais. It is difficult to speak after the project, but I would just like to thank you all again and to reiterate how happy we are with the selection of this group and with the diversity that we achieved. We searched for projects of different origins that represented the different biomes that we have in Brazil, the different realities, different challenges. I think the mission was accomplished so far, and I'm very anxious to see this working and starting. And I invite you all to a cocktail and for a family photo with everybody that was selected. Thank you very much.